What happens when one of the most talked about women in the world walks onto a daytime talk show and unleashes a verbal assault so shocking that security has to get involved? In just 33 seconds of unfiltered comments, a royal guest goes from composed to completely unhinged, turning a simple interview into television chaos. The studio lights are bright. The audience is packed. Howard Stern sits across from Meghan Markle on The View, ready for what everyone assumes will be a polite, carefully managed conversation. But from the very first question, something feels off. Howard leans forward with his trademark casual style and asks, "So, how have you been adjusting to life back in the public eye?" Meghan's smile is tight. "Well, Howard, I think the better question is why the public eye has been so obsessed with tearing me down." The audience goes quiet. Howard raises his eyebrows, but keeps his tone light. "I think people are just curious. You've lived quite a unique life." "Curious?" Meghan's voice rises slightly. "Is that what we're calling it now? Because from where I sit, it looks a lot more like a witch hunt." Howard shifts in his seat, trying to redirect. "I hear what you're saying, but a lot of people feel connected to your story. They want to understand your perspective." "My perspective," Meghan says, and there's an edge now, sharp and unmistakable. "My perspective is that people like you have made a career out of dissecting every single thing I do, every word I say, every outfit I wear. And for what? Ratings?" The audience murmurs. Howard stays calm, his voice steady. "I understand media scrutiny can be difficult, but that's not really what this interview is about. We're here to talk about your new projects, your advocacy work." Meghan laughs, but it's not a pleasant sound. "Right, my advocacy work. The work that gets ignored unless I'm being criticized for it. Tell me, Howard, when was the last time you had someone on this show who got asked about their marriage, their family drama, their every decision before you even let them talk about their actual accomplishments?" Howard pauses, giving her space, showing patience. "You're right that the focus has been intense, but you also chose to step into an incredibly public role. That comes with attention, both positive and negative." "Chose?" Meghan's face flushes. "I chose to fall in love. I didn't choose to have my entire existence picked apart by people who have never even met me. I didn't choose to be lied about, smeared, and treated like some kind of villain in a story I never asked to be part of." The producers behind the cameras exchange glances. This is going sideways fast. Howard remains composed, nodding slowly. "I think a lot of people empathize with what you've been through, but they also wonder about some of the choices that were made, some of the interviews, some of the public statements." And that's when Meghan snaps. "You want to talk about choices, Howard? Let's talk about your choices. Let's talk about how you've built your entire career on shock value and controversy, and now you sit here in your expensive suit pretending to be some kind of legitimate journalist. You think you're better than the tabloids? You're worse. At least they're honest about what they are." The audience gasps. You can feel the temperature in the room change. Howard doesn't flinch. His voice stays level, controlled. "Meghan, I think you're misdirecting your frustration here. I've actually been pretty supportive of you in my commentary over the years." "Supportive?" Meghan stands up now, and the camera crew scrambles to adjust. "You call it supportive to constantly question my motives? To give airtime to every single person who wants to attack me? To act like I'm some kind of calculating monster who trapped a prince?" Howard stands too, his hands up in a calming gesture. "Nobody here thinks that. But you have to understand, when you make certain claims, when you do high-profile interviews making serious accusations, people are going to have questions. That's not persecution. That's conversation." "No, Howard. What you do isn't conversation. It's a hit job dressed up as entertainment. And I'm done playing along." Meghan's pointing now, her finger jabbing toward him. You sit here, in your safe little studio, with your safe little questions, and you pretend like you're on my side while you let everyone else tear me to shreds. You're a coward. The word hangs in the air. The audience is frozen. Howard's jaw tightens, but his voice stays controlled, professional. I'm going to ask you to sit back down. We can take a break if you need a moment to collect yourself. Collect myself? Meghan's laugh is bitter. There it is. The woman is too emotional. She needs to calm down. How many times have I heard that? How many times have men told me to just relax when I'm calling out their garbage? Howard shakes his head. This isn't about you being a woman. This is about you being disrespectful to me, to this show, and to the people who came here to have a genuine conversation. Genuine? Meghan's voice hits a new pitch. You want genuine? Here's genuine. You are part of the problem. Every single person like you who profits off of my pain, who turns my life into content, who acts like I owe the world an explanation for wanting privacy and peace. You are the problem, and I'm sick of pretending otherwise. One of the View's producers steps onto the set now, trying to intervene. Maybe we should take 5 minutes. Meghan whirls on her. Don't you dare try to manage me right now. The producer backs away. Howard steps between them, his voice firm but not aggressive. Okay, that's enough. You need to take a breath. We're all professionals here. Let's act like it. Professionals? Meghan's face is red now, her composure completely shattered. You want to talk about professionalism? How professional is it to invite someone onto your show just to ambush them? To set them up for failure? Howard's patience is clearly wearing thin, but he keeps it together. Nobody ambushed you. You were given the questions in advance. You knew exactly what we were going to talk about. You agreed to be here. I agreed to be treated with respect. I agreed to have a platform to share my story. I didn't agree to be talked down to by someone who thinks he's better than me because he's been on television longer. The audience is murmuring loudly now. Some people are standing. It's chaos. Howard takes a deep breath, his voice cutting through the noise. I have never talked down to you. I've asked you fair questions. If you can't handle that without attacking me personally, then maybe you're not ready for this kind of conversation. And that's when Meghan crosses the line. Not ready? She's shouting now. I've faced more scrutiny, more hatred, more vile attacks than you could ever imagine. I've had to protect my family from threats you couldn't comprehend. And you have the audacity to tell me I'm not ready? You're a joke, Howard. This whole show is a joke. You're all vultures, every single one of you, feeding off people's misery and calling it entertainment. Howard's face hardens. You need to leave. Excuse me? You heard me. You need to leave my set. Right now. Meghan stands there, stunned. For a moment, she looks like she might refuse. Then she grabs her microphone and rips it off, the pack clattering to the floor. Gladly. I wouldn't stay here another second if you paid me. Security moves in, not grabbing her, but creating a clear path to the exit. The producers are scrambling, trying to salvage the situation. Howard stands his ground, watching as Meghan storms toward the wings. But she's not done. She turns back one more time, her voice carrying across the studio. You're all going to regret this. Every single person who contributed to this circus. Mark my words. Howard doesn't respond. He doesn't need to. The audience breaks into scattered applause as Meghan disappears backstage, her exit as dramatic as her outburst. The cameras are still rolling. Howard sits back down, running a hand through his hair. He looks directly into the camera, and for a moment, he just breathes. Then he speaks, his voice tired but steady. Well, he says, that was unexpected. The audience laughs nervously. You can feel the tension starting to break, but the shock remains. Howard continues, choosing his words carefully. Look, I want to be clear about something. We invited Meghan here in good faith. The goal was to have an open, honest conversation about her experiences, her work, and yes, some of the controversies. But it was never our intention to attack her or make her feel uncomfortable. He pauses, glancing at the empty chair across from him. I've been doing this for a long time. I've had tough interviews. I've had people disagree with me. But I've never had someone come onto this show and treat it, and me, with that level of disrespect. The audience is hanging on every word. Howard leans back, his expression thoughtful. Here's the thing. We can disagree. We can have different perspectives. We can even get heated in our discussions. But there's a line between passionate debate and personal attacks. And what just happened crossed that line. Someone in the audience shouts support. Howard nods in acknowledgement. I understand that Meghan has been through a lot. I genuinely do. The media can be brutal. The public can be unforgiving. But that doesn't give anyone the right to come into someone else's space and hurl insults. He shifts in his seat, his professionalism never wavering. I asked fair questions. Questions that, frankly, a lot of people want answers to. And instead of engaging with those questions, instead of using this platform to actually share her perspective, she chose to attack. She chose to make this about me, about the show, about everyone except the issues we were trying to discuss. The studio is quiet now, everyone listening. Howard's voice softens slightly. I hope she finds peace. I really do. But peace doesn't come from lashing out at everyone around you. It comes from taking responsibility for your own reactions and choices. Backstage, Meghan is surrounded by her team. They're trying to calm her down, but she's pacing, still furious. Did you see what he did? She's saying. Did you see how he twisted everything? Her publicist tries to interject. Maybe we should... No. No more, maybe. I'm done with all of this. Back on set, Howard is wrapping up. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll try to reset and talk about some lighter topics. Because honestly, we could all use a breather after that. As the cameras cut, the audience erupts into conversation. Everyone is pulling out their phones, texting, tweeting, sharing what they just witnessed. The producers huddle together, already knowing this is going to be the most talked about moment in the show's recent history. Howard sits quietly for a moment, then looks at his co-hosts who have been silent through the entire exchange. Well, he says with a slight smile, add that to the highlight reel. One of them laughs, breaking the tension. Are you okay? Howard nods. Yeah, I'm fine. I've been called worse by better people. But his hands are shaking slightly as he takes a sip of water. The adrenaline is real. The shock of having someone so famous, so protected, come unglued on live television is still processing. In the control room, the director is on the phone with network executives. Yes, it's all on tape. Yes, she really said all of that. No, we didn't provoke it. Howard was completely professional. The executives are trying to figure out next steps, but really, there's nothing to figure out. The moment is already out there, spreading across social media like wildfire. Within minutes, clips are being shared, memes are being made, think pieces are being drafted. Back on set, the commercial break ends. Howard takes a breath and faces the camera again, his composure fully restored. Welcome back. I think we can all agree that was one of the more intense moments we've had on this show. The audience claps. Howard continues. But here's what I want to emphasize. This show has always been about open dialogue, about hearing different perspectives, about challenging ideas and having tough conversations. And we're not going to change that because one guest couldn't handle it. There's more applause. Howard's voice is strong now, confident. We will always treat our guests with respect. We will always ask fair questions, and we will always maintain our standards, even when others don't. He looks directly into the camera. To everyone watching at home, thank you for being here for this wild ride. And to Meghan, Wherever you are right now, I hope you can take a step back and reflect on what happened here today. Because the problem wasn't the questions. The problem wasn't the show. The problem was how you chose to respond. The statement hangs there, powerful and clear. Now Howard transitions smoothly into the next segment, proving exactly why he's been successful for so long. He doesn't dwell. He doesn't dramatize. He just moves forward with professionalism and grace. In her dressing room, Meghan is still seething. "Get me out of here," she tells her team. "I want to leave. Now." They rush to gather her things, to arrange her exit from the building. But as they prepare to leave, Meghan catches a glimpse of herself in the mirror. For just a second, something flickers across her face. Doubt? Regret? It's hard to tell. But then it's gone, replaced by that same hard determination. "Let's go," she says, and sweeps out of the room. Back in the studio, the show continues. The audience is still buzzing, still processing. Howard handles the rest of the hour with his usual skill. But everyone knows what the story will be. Everyone knows what clip will dominate the news cycle. As the show finally wraps, Howard stands and thanks the audience. They give him a standing ovation, longer and louder than usual. It's not just for the show. It's for how he handled an impossible situation with dignity. In the wings, crew members approach him, offering support and compliments. "You were amazing," one says. She was completely out of line. Howard just nods, gracious as always. It's all part of the job. But later, in his private office, he sits down and lets out a long exhale. His producer joins him, closing the door. "That was insane," she says. Howard laughs, running his hands over his face. "Yeah, that's one word for it. Are you sure you're okay?" He looks up, and there's genuine emotion in his eyes now. "Honestly, it was hard. When someone attacks you like that, personally and publicly, it gets to you. I'd be lying if I said it didn't." The producer sits down across from him. "You handled it perfectly. You never lost your cool. You never stooped to her level." "I tried not to," Howard says quietly. "But man, part of me wanted to fire back. Part of me wanted to match her energy and just unload. But you didn't. And that's why people respect you." Howard nods slowly. "I just hope people see it for what it was. I wasn't attacking her. I wasn't trying to make her look bad. I was doing my job." "They will," the producer assures him. "Trust me, the public isn't stupid. They can see who was reasonable and who was out of control." And she's right. As the hours pass and the clips spread further, the narrative solidifies. Howard comes out looking professional, calm, and respectful. Meghan comes out looking erratic, entitled, and unable to handle basic questioning. The contrast is stark. In every clip, every replay, every analysis, it's clear who handled the